And we're
We're live.
live.
Welcome, everyone, to another Nerdrotic recap of this season of The Flash, Season 3. This episode is New Rogues. I'm your host, John Reed. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnReed16. Joining me, as usual, is Dennis Pathalkis. Dennis, how's it going?
Doing all right. Down here in San Diego. You're up in LA there.
I'm in Truckee still. I'm still up in
Oh,
Tahoe. So,
geez. I'm
uh,
sorry. You're up in Truckee. You're even farther away.
yeah, it's starting to storm out tonight. So hopefully my internet stays live this whole time. You can follow Dennis on Twitter at DeForce.
Right down here.
So yeah, this will be one of our half-hour recap, or half hour or so shorter recaps of this episode of The Flash. So this was a little bit of false advertising. I mean, I know that we're dealing with some new rogues, if you will, a couple new bad guys that they're introducing us to. One maybe more significant than the other, but when it said new rogues, I was imagining more of like a coming together of the rogues gallery, right? Instead of just an introduction of a couple new rogues. So to me, it seemed the title of the episode seemed a little bit overambitious, but the episode itself
Well,
was pretty fun. What did you think?
it's actually three rogues that they've introduced in this episode.
So who are the oh, so Killer, you're thinking Killer Frost is going to
Killer
be one of
Frost is
those
the third one,
rogues?
yeah.
So yeah, that ending was pretty cool. I don't know if I want to start right at the end, but yeah, that's true. I didn't take into account that we had uh, that
And
third
four
rogue in there.
and four if we count the other Harrison Wells from Earth
So is the other,
19.
who is the so okay, let's jump in right there. That's a good place to start if of any. So one of the plot lines in this episode is Harrison Wells wants to go back to Earth 2, it seems, so they're going to find a different Harrison Wells to sub in as the resident genius leader, not leader, but mentor of the team, I guess. And
To
so
help them
they
out, yeah.
yeah, so they build a device that scours the multiverse looking for applicants. They embed a very significant algorithm that Wells would have to decrypt to be able to kind of prove himself, and then reach out to them with his answer. So they vetted a few Wellses, and they landed on the last Wells of their group, and he seemed kind of like a weird, quirky, hipstery Wells.
Yeah.
And that's the one that they end up going with at the end of the episode. We see new Wells come in and old Wells go out. He calls himself HR. He's kind of like quippy and funny. So who is like what's the deal here? Like, why did Wells have to go? What's with this retcon of the character mid-season where old Wells is going back to Earth 2, where he's from, and we get this new Wells we've never met before? Why are they doing this?
I remember he said he had to clean up what he started with the metahumans over there. So
Yeah.
he was actually helping on his Earth take care of the metahuman problem that was already there.
Right. So who is this new Wells, though? You're saying he might be the fourth new rogue that we met.
Yeah, we don't know yet. I mean, we'll find out in the next episode more than likely, because they already kind of alluded to, as he puts it cryptically, they didn't even ask why I came here.
Right, exactly. So what's your speculation on this Wells? What do you think his deal is?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, that's what I kind of like about it. It's taken a little bit off of script, I guess you could say. It's not. It may be from the comics. I don't know. We haven't found out yet. So
right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm intrigued. We'll see where that goes. I like current Wells the best of all the Wellses we've met.
Harry?
I think.
Yeah.
I like Harry the best. Evil Wells was kind of blander, and I think Harry has a little more personality to him, even though he's maybe from a little grimmer of a place. But this new Wells is just a little too big, wacky.
It's actually the actor himself. He's kind of playing. He's not really acting. He's just kind of being himself, really.
Yeah. So
that's actually his own hat, I think. I remember I've seen interviews with him before during season 1, and he's been wearing that hat. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, for sure. That actor definitely likes to do a lot of interviews in hats. So I guess he'll be wearing hats all the rest of the time that we have him. I don't know if this is going to be I think this is going to be kind of a short-lived little quirk in the show. I think we'll get Earth 2 Wells back pretty quickly. But well, I'm interested to see where it goes as well. So staying on the new Rogues, plot thread. The two main new Rogues we got throughout this episode were Mirror Master and Top. Mirror Master, correct me if I'm wrong, is a significant character in Flash lore. He is part of the traditional Rogues Gallery. Top, on the other hand,
More of a B-lister.
Yeah, I mean, so in the comics, it's a guy. They changed it so that I guess they could have a hot girl on screen. But I was just like, is this just Vertigo? Like, what's going on? I liked the scene where Jesse Quick, who goes up against Top the first time, she kind of gets taken by the Vertigo and falls off the building and has to be saved. When she has her rematch with Top later in the episode, I like that she actually spun her reverse style like a Top to stop the spinning from getting to her. I liked that aspect of her. You literally saw Top spinning like a top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what did you think of let's start with Top. What did you think of this character being brought in this fashion in the show?
Well, it was kind of interesting that what I kind of liked the way they did it was that they're almost playing this timeline like everything already happened in all the seasons already happened with this timeline already in effect. So essentially saying that we, the audience, have already seen this character be arrested and everything like Flash. And so they really don't develop her, but just kind of bring her in and go, boom, she's already preformed. She's already formed.
Yes.
Which I thought was kind of an interesting choice. It was smart. And
it was a little confusing at first. I mean, granted, I wasn't fully... I don't think I was really grasping what was happening with that specific character. I thought it was more of a throwaway at the beginning, so I wasn't like paying a lot of attention to that character until she gets broken out of prison by Mirror Master. But it was a little confusing. I was like, am I supposed to know this person? Like, is this somebody that we've met before? Yeah, so that was a little bit jarring. In fact, this is actually... I'm transitioning out of this a little bit and going all on tangents as I tend to do, but another character that came in this episode that I was wondering if we had met and who the hell it was Cecile, this detective that's working with Joe.
We've seen her before, and it's kind of nice bringing her back in.
For those who don't remember, like myself, who is Cecile? What's her deal?
She's part of the Metahuman Task Force with the FBI, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So
and she's a meta detective, like a meta-specific detective, or is she
they're hunting down metahumans that are evil, of course, that are committing crimes and stuff like that, and that's all she's focused on. It's just the metahumans, nothing else.
Well, and she's very focused on Joe, as we find out this episode.
And the thing is, they did have that kind of chemistry before, and it's nice to see her kind of being brought back in, because they kind of dropped her fairly suddenly last season. It was kind of weird that she just kind of disappeared, and now she kind of reappeared all of a sudden this season. It was kind of odd, but
and I feel like she's making more of an impression this season too, because like I've watched all these episodes multiple times now, and for some reason she just slipped my mind. I remembered a lot of these other detectives that have people who have come and gone throughout the seasons, but she was not one that stuck out to me, and I was trying to remember, I was trying to jar my memory to see if I remembered her, and I didn't really, but she did make a really strong impression in this episode, and I actually really liked this character, especially in her relationship with Joe, which we don't see a lot of Joe's romantic entanglements, so I think she'll be a breath of fresh air.
No Joe romantic entanglements. This has been the first time they've actually given Joe a love interest.
Right, aside from Iris's mom, who popped back into the picture for a little bit. That wasn't, it wasn't a current romantic interest. So, I like this. I like where this is going. She's a little young. I think she's a little Iris-y. She's a little young for Joe, but to each his own.
I think she looks young. I think she's actually a little bit older, but
Interesting. Yeah. Well, they cast very well, because she's looking good. Back to the Rogues though. Mirror Master. This was really Mirror Master's, big episode, right? Like our big introduction to Mirror Master. Walk me through what you thought of him in the episode, maybe what you know of the character and what you liked and didn't like tonight.
I like that they actually brought both Mirror Masters. They talked about both, because Wells, names him before Cisco can. And he goes, well, we already had one on Earth too. He goes, but he used kind of this lame mirror gun, and project 2D images, and And it was kind of funny that they were able to bring up the other Mirror Master in just kind of an offhand remark that
Yep.
way.
Yeah, I
So
thought that was
it was
hilarious.
nice.
What did you think of how the show like that's a very difficult, it works well in graphic images. I feel Mirror Master's power of going through the the mirror world and
Hmm.
using mirrors, it's really hard to explain. I think is like the warp, they even made fun of it in the episode, like I don't even want to think about how this works because it doesn't. But what did you think of how they achieved visually the power set of Mirror Master?
I think they did a good job. I mean, and especially they even were able to bring in a little bit of physics to it as well.
I
Um,
I thought that, so for me, there were parts where I thought they did very, very well and parts where I felt they did less well. My favorite part of that middle action sequence where Mirror Master is, where
Sorry.
Flash is, no worries, um, where Flash is chasing Mirror Master up the building, through the buildings, and then he ends up going into like the Mirror Master where he gets trapped in the mirror or in the
Hmm.
reflection. Um, I loved that whole. I thought that they did a really good job with showing Mirror Master's power in motion, right? Which is hard to do, I think. But some of the other like mirror tricks that they did were less impactful. Like I just didn't, especially when Barry finds the fix with the infinite reflection loop. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I I didn't understand how he couldn't just go into that mirror and come out somewhere else, right? Like I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it just didn't. It
That was the
didn't look
physics of it, actually, because it's the infinite loop. Basically, the mirrors are reflecting off of each other. I don't know if you've ever seen, when you have mirrors
Mhm.
across the hall from each other. Remember in the 70s, they used to have
Yes.
those mirrors that would look like they go going on forever. It's the
Mhm.
same concept. So basically, all these mirrors facing each other. If he was trying to go into one and come out another one someplace else, he couldn't because all these mirrors are facing each other and he was trapped in a loop
Yeah, but why would he pop out and not just get stuck inside that loop?
because of the wormhole. The wormhole itself, the way they were talking about it was
Mhm.
it wasn't able to travel past that mirror. It was stuck in a loop. So
So
the wormhole
it's
would keep.
essentially rejecting him altogether. It's not like
Yeah,
he's traveling into it and getting kicked out again.
yeah.
Yeah, it was tough to. I mean, look, I think that they did a good job with it. It was a little bit tough to, I think, get a handle of the power set and how it all worked within that. But that said, I think they explained it pretty well, and it looked pretty good. And the actor who played Mirror Master, I like that they brought him in. They're referencing Snart, Captain Cold, the whole episode, and
Hmm.
she's trying to like almost as if Mirror Master is replacing him in the Central City. Is Central City right? I always forget if it's
Yeah,
Star City or
yeah.
in
It's
Central
it's
City.
also it's also kind of funny though too is that they're talking about him leaving with the Legends group, but we don't know if him coming back to 2016 if he's been affected by the
Right.
whole Flashpoint thing, and so now that might be the reason why we get in Legends of Tomorrow we get Evil Snart back.
Right, because of Flashpoint. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's very likely. It could be that or an earlier place and time, like you suggested.
yeah,
I like both of those concepts work for me. But yeah, he's referencing Snart. We even got a fake Snart cameo with the hologram,
yeah.
which as much as we get Captain Cold on the show, I'm happy. But I also liked that this character did play. He was chewing like Mirror Master was. He wasn't as good as Snart as the actor who plays Snart, obviously, but he was, chewing the scenery a little bit, and it was fun to see that mustache
I,
twirling villain on the show again.
I just wish they would have given him, had enough money in the budget to give him socks to go with those shoes. I don't know
Yes,
why. I noticed it. I just saw it. He's wearing this nice suit, and then he's wearing shoes, these really dorky shoes without any socks. It just, my eyes got drawn to it for some reason. I don't know why. Normally
it's a
don't
look,
notice
Dennis.
that.
It's a look.
Yeah, it needs to stop.
So, fashion aside, how did you like this actor and this portrayal?
It was fun. I mean, we didn't see a lot of him. Like you said, he chewed up a lot of scenery, and I need to see him in a little bit more things, and I think in different contexts, just to with more rogues, I guess you could say. to see
Yes.
how he would react with that.
So, another little so the other another main thing in this episode was the relationship between Iris and Barry is progressing, and there's some awkwardness because they kind of grew up as brother and sister for the most part. And so Joe, they're having a hard time having their relationship with Joe, who's kind of a father figure to both of them. It's very, very awkward.
Joe doesn't care. He just doesn't want to see it in front of, he knows it's going to happen. He doesn't really want to see it, but at the same time he doesn't have a problem with it. Barry's the one that has the problem with making out with Iris in front of Joe, which I
Right.
thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, totally. The whole thing was this is really the first few episodes that we're getting of pure Barry Iris being together, dating and making,
Yeah.
like this is a romantic thing between the two of them, which I think is something the show has led to for a long time. I think it's something that a lot of fans probably wanted. I did definitely. Um, so it was interesting to see we're kind of jumping into them being awkward in front of Joe, but comfortable with each other, where they're like, cuddling on the cat. This is a different dynamic for these characters than we've ever
Yeah.
seen. And I don't know how much I need to have this be a primary storyline, right? Like I'd rather it just be one of the character dynamics in the show. I don't need a ton of like Barry and Iris going on dates and that being like a focus of the episode. I don't know if you
No,
agree
I
or
don't
not.
think it's going to be. I think they just need to kind of set it up and then get past this little hurdle of it was basically all there so that Barry moves out and he gets his own
Yeah,
place.
yes. So
That's really
yeah,
what was there. It was that's all it was. It was just
I guess I was kind of bearing the lead though. So
yeah.
yes, all of this is leading to Barry thinking wisely. You know what? Let's just get out from all being under one roof. I'm going to move out. I'm going to make this less of like we're a family and more of like I'm dating your daughter, Joe.
Yeah,
So I think that
exactly.
was wise, and it's going to be a bummer because I do love those scenes of Joe and Barry hanging out at the house, like drinking beer, uh, talking about shit. Like I do
I
love those scenes. So
I
I hope we
still
see.
like Joe's reaction though to it too when he says, "Oh, you're finally moving out. It's about time." You
Yeah,
know,
it's about time.
and then he goes, I don't know if I'm going, moving out or if I'm being kicked out. He goes, feel however you want to feel.
That's how you. Yeah, it's your deal. So when they were interviewed, here's a little, maybe an Easter egg that I don't know the background on to appreciate. But when they were interviewing, quote unquote, the other Welleses, one of them mentioned Terra Prime. Is that something a nod to the comics?
Terra Prime, if I remember correctly, it's my memory's hazy on this. It has something to do with Crisis of Infinite Earths, and
There's a lot of
it,
Crisis
it
references right now.
yeah, and if I remember correctly, it has something to do with the one of the current storylines that's going on as well, where the 52, where there's all these things colliding in all the multiverses,
Hmm.
and there was a Terra Prime, if I remember correctly. I'm really kind of fuzzy on that one, but
Yeah, maybe I'm sure it'll. Well, I hope it'll come up again, but and we'll dig into it at that point. But I just like it was funny that they got that reference in there, and I do feel like a lot of these shows are pulling in, especially Supergirl. I think are starting to really tie in things from Crisis, and
yeah,
I wonder if um, actually, this is a good time in this podcast to bring this up. So the ratings are week to week are starting to be. We're starting to see some trends in the ratings for television this fall season, and the CW superhero shows are down. I think 15% or something. Gary
oh yeah, he said
messaged us,
17%. Yeah,
and I wanted to get into a conversation. So I'm wondering if to reinvigorate the ratings maybe at the beginning of next season or the end of this season they do a large retcon of all these shows and do Crisis on CW. I'm wondering if you think that's a possibility and also speak to that and also maybe speak to what you think is this decrease in, is it just a general trend of television that we're getting this decrease, or
it's a
are these
general trend
shows
of
starting to
television.
be?
It's
Yeah,
basically a lot more
that's what I
people
think too.
are cutting the cord and they're watching online. Honestly, the CW has all the episodes for free on their app.
Yeah. With commercials, though, I'd rather watch DVR without commercials, right?
Yeah,
Which I
but I
don't know how
mean,
that affects the ratings, but
if you don't have, if you don't have cable,
yeah.
and you're not someplace where you can pull in over the air CW channel or something like that, your app is actually still going to be your best way of looking at it.
Yeah,
And yeah,
agreed.
sure, you can have commercials, but still, you can live through that.
Because I think it would be weird. It seems like these shows are at some of the highest quality they've been at. I mean, they're still at a very high level. It's not like there's been a significant decrease in quality, or if there hasn't been a 17% decrease in quality of these shows. So
Yeah,
I think it is more of a general trend. It's not something I'm um, very worried about. But I do think it would be interesting to maybe try to get more in the event television mindset to do something like Crisis.
I don't know if they're actually going to go down that path. They may at some point. We saw what they did with Flashpoint. Flashpoint was a huge thing in the comics, and they spent one episode on it, and it
Mhm.
was quick. It
But it
was
did
over and done.
reset a lot of, it did remold the universe in a very significant way, right? So
Yeah, and it
even
touched
though
on
Flashpoint itself
Arrow as
is only
well. Yeah,
right, right, exactly, and uh, even though Flashpoint was only one episode, it did retcon within Flash and a little bit within Arrow some of the characters we've known, and we get to have these moments like we did with Top, where there's history there that we didn't get to see because of Flashpoint, right? So that's interesting, and I feel like Crisis. I mean, look, they're going to all these Earths to find different Welleses. We've got Cadmus in Supergirl. We've got a lot of references to Superboy and Lena Luthor over there on Supergirl. I feel like we're starting to put elements in place where if you wanted to consolidate the multiverse down into, eliminate the multiverse and bring it into just the CW verse, you could do something like that.
yeah. I mean, they
Especially if
do
you take
have
time to
everything in
explore more.
place. Like, say if they're going to cancel a couple of shows or something like that, and consolidate into one. I can see them doing like a gigantic crossover, like a Brave and the Bold kind of show, and whittle it down to maybe 3 shows instead of 4 if
Or
you need to.
to add, let's say you wanted to bring the Bat family or the Wonder Woman verse, you could just eliminate Legends of Tomorrow as the end, as the uh, as Crisis happens, time travel goes away or something, and Legends is gone, and you combine Flash and Arrow into one show. So you've got Oliver and Barry on the same show. And then you've got Supergirl, you've got your Flash Arrow show, and you can bring in some other properties or Young Justice. I've got to mention
Yeah.
Young Justice every single podcast, but you could really reshuffle that lineup in a way.
Well, what I would like to see is, and I know Gary and I have talked about this before, and we even saw Hal Jordan's jacket, his flight jacket in Arrow. Um, I would love to see Green Arrow, Green Lantern show,
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
like the comic, because
Yes.
they played well. But you have to get Ollie to the point where he's that more optimistic Ollie than the brooding Batman Ollie that we've got right now.
What was the original Justice League? It was Green Arrow, Black Canary, Green Lantern. Who else
You
was
mean
in the
way
original?
back when it first
Yeah,
started?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the original team.
Well, it was Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, um, Flash, and
See, I thought that the team was Green Arrow, Canary, Green Lantern,
no,
and
that wasn't
then
until the late '80s. Yeah, about the late
who was
'80s.
on that team? Because it didn't have the heavy hitters, right? I feel like what they could do is that version of the Justice League and just have that all be one amazing show, right? Like all these characters in one show. You could potentially do something like that.
Yeah, because no, they had it so that the Justice League was supposed to come together mainly to fight uh, stuff that was going to happen, protecting Earth. Essentially, is
Right.
what it was.
The
So
biggest threats, exactly.
yeah,
So I don't know. There's definitely a possibility for all this stuff. I don't necessarily think they're going any of these directions. It's just
no,
interesting to think about because they are throwing a lot of things that relate to that era of comics right now.
I think he's just. I think they're having fun. Honestly, they're seeing what they can pull, what they can get away with, and they're getting away with a lot right now.
Yes, yes, they are. So is there anything else? Oh, so then let's talk about before we head into our final few minutes, let's talk about the Killer Frost tag at the end of the episode. We see Caitlin go home. She takes the shower. She lets all of her cold energy out, and her lips turn blue, and she starts to get the white streaks in her hair.
Yep.
First of all, I think it looks really cool. I love that actress, and I love ice powers. Hence that guy, my Iceman tattoo. So I'm excited to see this on the show. I loved that tag at the end tonight. It's one of my favorites that they've had in a while. The Grodd one sticks out to me, but this one definitely is up
Yeah,
there.
for me, it's Grodd and King Shark. Those are the
Yeah,
two.
and King Shark. And I would, I'm going to put this one up there. I'm fascinated with ice people, and I think Killer Frost is. I'm actually kind of hoping we get not a evil Killer Frost. I hope we get a, maybe she's turned for an episode, arc. But I just love Caitlin. I love Caitlin on the team, and I'd love to see that power used in an Iceman type wear instead of like a,
Well, remember,
Doctor
it
Cold.
is the CW. We do have Dr. Alchemy right now, who's
true.
turning people, and it is a CW plot line where you turn one of your cast members into an evil person.
Yeah.
That's the group.
Yeah.
So my bet
That's true.
is she's going to become evil.
I just, yeah, you're probably right. I hope it's not forever. I would miss, as much as I would like to see Killer Frost, I would miss Caitlin. I really love how this team works together. I think that's a strength of this show is the Wells, Barry, Cisco, Caitlin dynamic. It's the heart of this show.
Oh yeah,
It's like in Buffy, it's the Scooby Gang, and I
yeah.
feel like when you take Willow and turn her evil, it affects the show in a very, very large way. And
Oh yeah.
Willow came back. I hope Caitlin will too after she gets turned because I'd miss it.
What I want to see is breakdancing Cisco, because Vibe was a breakdancer.
That would be awesome. I bet you in the musical we get something like that.
I hope so, because now that they're pretty much, he's full on using his powers now at this point to open up portals and stuff like that. I definitely want to see that. And I'm glad that was the other thing too, is I'm glad they got over the little rift of Barry, him asking Barry to go back in time and save his brother. They kind of just glossed over that. And I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. We don't need to dwell on that.
100% back to normal. Yeah, totally. And I hope that's what I mean when with Killer Frost. I feel like give her half a season to be evil, give us Killer Frost, but then give us Caitlin back. Like that's all I care about. Anything else about this episode or anything from the upcoming episode you wanted to? Let's talk about previews. I didn't catch them. I saw them, but I didn't really see. They're chasing a crazy character through, and they think it might be New Wells, right? Like that's the general idea.
Well, they don't trust him, so they're actually like kind of now questioning what his motivations are.
Right.
And but also,
and there's another bad guy, right?
Yeah, there's a giant that's going through the city, and it kind of looked like Parallax a little bit in a way. I don't know exactly, like a giant Parallax. I don't know what it is really, but it was kind of purple more than anything else. So be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah. So it looks like another fun episode coming up next week. So we'll be covering it next week after the episode, like we are tonight around 9:30. We will be covering Arrow tomorrow and Legends of Tomorrow on Thursday, and then this weekend we should have some more content coming out. We're going to work on Ash vs. Evil Dead. We're going to work on Walking Dead, and there may be some other things. Oh, Doctor Strange comes out, so we'll be doing a Doctor Strange movie cast. What day does that come out? Is that Friday?
That's Friday. Yeah, I'll be seeing it on Thursday myself. So.
Oh, I thought that was November 4th.
Actually, it is November 4th. I take that back. That is
next week. That's next week. But we'll be seeing it over that weekend next week. But it is upcoming. It's on the docket. So, excuse me. So we may have a couple other things this weekend that we get out to you. For any of that information, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Nerdrotic podcast or straight up at our website at nerdrotic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnReed16. You can follow Dennis at DeForce, DAF. There it is. And you can follow our main Twitter feed at Nerdrotics with an S. If there's anything, unless there's anything else, we can sign off for tonight, Dennis.
Yeah, I don't have anything else, so don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, America.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Bye.
See ya.